I recommend Nature Made vitamins because I trust their quality.
Well, grab the green hat because we're going streaking. The Cavaliers run that win streak to 8 straight games with a 114-100 win over LeBron James and the LA Lakers. Buckle up, baby. It's the Cavs Insider Postgame Report coming at you right now. Well, I hope you like that one. A big win over the Los Angeles Lakers on a Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles. Hey, how's everybody doing this evening? Welcome to the Cavs Insider Postgame Report. John Rutter, Spencer German jumping on you with this one. I could not resist the old school reference here after the Cavs won this one to 8 straight.
I was going to say, John, you're off to a great start. You played the right video. You had the old school reference. Like this podcast could not have started any smoother, if you ask me.
We're off and rolling. I made it a point to make sure to take an extra second and make sure that I rolled the right intro too. So we're good to go on that regard. But look, 8 straight. We're going to talk about Darius, Garland. We're going to talk about LeBron. We're going to talk about the Cavs and Lakers here tonight. Look, this is on a day where the Browns didn't play. It is a feel-good Sunday. Definitely going to roll into a victory Monday for this one.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think there was a couple weeks ago we were kind of feeling like the Cavs were going to be a nice distraction from Brown Sundays in regards to how that season was kind of going. But on a week where they're off, I think they really did have people's full attention in that regard of being able to sort of just sit down, watch the Cavs play and enjoy this one. And it just so happens they're playing LeBron today as well, which was a big deal. So it's a 8th straight win, as you alluded to. I don't know off the top of my head the last time they won 8 in a row, but this is as good of a start as I can imagine and remember with the Cavs team in my lifetime. So obviously liking the way they're playing right now. The backcourt has just been phenomenal. Another 30-point game for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, kind of his sidekick. We were worried, John, kind of about the growing pains of those two guys playing together. They played, 13 minutes in the first game of the season before, obviously, Garland got hurt and left. And now, we all kind of said, Donovan Mitchell's carried the workload while he's been out. And since he's been out there together, and Garland has returned, I mean, it has been almost like flawless. Like these guys have been playing together for years. I think that's something that just stands out as maybe one of the most impressive things to me is that through 3 games of really playing together in the backcourt, they're really playing smooth basketball and really playing off each other really well, which is a good thing to see. That doesn't mean it's going to be like that all year. There'll be some moments, I think, for this young group in general where there's some speed bumps along the way. But to see those guys just clicking and rolling on all cylinders like they did again today against the Lakers is something that certainly has caught my attention.
Yeah, the early returns look good, and you have to imagine this is exactly what Kobe Altman and the front office had in mind when they did acquire Donovan Mitchell to pair up with Darius Garland. An 8-1 start, I believe the best start that the Cavs have had since the 2016-2017 season, so right after the championship year. Longest win streak since I believe that same year when they had a 13-game heater. So, look, we're kind of in a little bit of uncharted territory here with how these guys have started this season and rattling off these wins, specifically because one LeBron James was involved with that 2017 team, and now was your opponent today in the Lakers. And Spence, you and I talked on the radio on Friday night. Heck of a stat you brought up about his record against the Cavaliers, and he always seems to have a little extra juice for his former team. But it was good to see them pull it out today.
Yeah, we talked ad nauseum about it. We talked about it via text again this morning. He was 17-1 against the Cavaliers for his career. I'm going to write a piece about this actually at CavsInsider.com. But I just think obviously the wins over the Celtics are the thing in this early stretch that stands out the most. Those are the two games where it's like, that's your bar, right? If we're basing anything off of last year and how well the Celtics played and get into the finals, obviously, that's kind of your bar of, okay, if we can beat that team or we can compete with that team, that says a lot about where we're at as an organization. But to exercise this demon, if you will, that is LeBron James owning his former team and sort of the team, his hometown team, when he obviously isn't playing here in Cleveland, that, I don't know, like that feels like some sort of statement or at least some sort of symbolic win for the organization to kind of get that monkey off their back and be able to signal to, in my eyes, like this is a new era of Cavs basketball. Because look, the only time they've beaten LeBron, now they have had a couple wins against LeBron's teams, but it was games he didn't play in. The only time they beat LeBron when he was playing for one of these other teams was that first year in Miami. I think it was like late in the year. Miami at that point already like locked up everything they needed to lock up, just kind of coasting, right? So it felt like, okay, yeah, it was just kind of a fluke win. LeBron maybe let him have one late in the year, whatever. This one feels like almost a passing of the torch, right? Where it's like LeBron is saying, not saying, because it's not that he just is, not playing hard, but it's like you're able to get over that hump, beat him, and kind of signify like, look, we appreciate the memories you have given us. We appreciate the championship banner that's hanging in the rafters, but we're sort of moving forward, forging forward into a new era of Cavs basketball. That doesn't include LeBron James. And I think for some fans, that has to be like a breath of fresh air, because I've probably brought up LeBron more times than I should have on these podcasts, when I host on 92 through the Fan, whatever it is. Like, I'm constantly bringing up LeBron. I think we all dig into the LeBron thing as a topic. It's an easy thing to go to, like, oh, would you take LeBron back, all that. This is a kind of a symbolic message to me of like, you can put that to bed. We don't have to have that conversation because this team is good enough without him to go and do the things potentially that LeBron helped this team do and helped this franchise achieve in recent years. So I don't know. That's how I'm kind of looking at it. It kind of feels that way when you haven't beaten a guy more than one time and you finally feel like you're out of that rut of having just a bad team thrown out there against him, and you feel like this is a true team that you feel, man, we can do something with, and you're able to finally go out and get over that hump and beat LeBron, who gets up for a game like this. He likes kind of putting it to his team, as we've talked about on this podcast. So I think in some ways, again, not as meaningful probably as the Celtics wins, but I think this does sort of make a statement for the organization that, hey, we're moving on and we feel really good about the era that we're kind of starting here with this new group, headlined obviously by the Donovan Mitchell trade that was made this summer.
Yeah, for sure. And I was jotting down some kind of post-game thoughts as well. And I just kind of came up with like this afternoon just kind of felt like cathartic, right? Like it was, it was a breath of fresh air, as you mentioned. It was good to get that win. And like, look, to equate it to almost like a Browns perspective, like Browns wins against the Steelers mean more even if they stink, right? Like Browns wins against the Ravens mean more even if they're not very good. Like a win over LeBron means a lot in the grand scheme of things here, whether it's mentally, just to be able to turn that page. And I think that was something that you could really feel today. I tend to be somebody that kind of keeps the emotions in check, try to stay like even keel. Some people think that means that I don't have any passion, but look, there was passion flowing all over the living room today as they closed it out because, and it started off with like Jarrett Allen with the dunk in the second half. And you could just kind of feel like we've talked about this team using their defense to be able to keep them in games. We'll get to Darius and Donovan here in just a few minutes, but like they locked it down in that second half. And, first couple of possessions in the first quarter, they get a couple of big stops and a basket the other way. And that's like a 5-6 point swing. And they just kind of took that and ran away with it. I'm very impressed with how this team has been able to respond to adversity time after time. I know that it's very early still. We're 9 games into this thing, but it's like every time that they get a punch thrown at them, they really don't waver a whole lot. Like they were down 21-9 today on the road in a pretty hostile environment with a guy who's charged up to play against you. And it really didn't seem to phase them a whole lot. Like they just kind of went back to playing defense and getting the ball to their guards and generating offense the old-fashioned way by getting to the paint. And that's kind of just how they were able to manufacture things and to claw back into this one.
Yeah, and you bring that up. I think it's a really good point because this game to me, as I was watching it play out, like, yeah, they fell behind early. LeBron was kind of getting the better of them. Anthony Davis inside, really dominant in the first half on the boards, putting up shots and being able to knock him down inside the paint. Part of that was early foul trouble for Mobley, early foul trouble for Allen as well. So they kind of had to manage those minutes in the first half. But I felt like for the whole way through, and I think I guess I kind of felt it the most maybe from Donovan Mitchell, who it maybe makes the most sense coming from him because he's a guy who, listen, he's been playing in the West. He's been playing LeBron these last few years more frequently even than the Cavs have when he was with the Jazz. And he's a guy who's considered like a top 25 player at this point in his career. These other guys are sort of working towards that or building towards that. They're young, still in development. And he went out there and was like, hey, I consider myself a good player. I have the confidence to get this thing done. The fact that we're playing the guy who used to like run this organization, that doesn't faze me. And I think that rubbed off on the rest of the team. Like, this was one of the first times I watched a Cavs game against LeBron where it didn't feel like it was just all like, oh, good feelings towards LeBron. And it kind of felt like we're going to go out, we're going to prove that we're the better team here, like we should be. And we weren't just going to roll over because it was that guy. Whereas I think some of the past years, maybe not last year, but in past years, when you're going up against LeBron and there was these bad Cavs teams with a bad roster, you just kind of knew what was coming, right? And you knew he was going to be too much to handle. This team, it seemed like, felt like, yeah, we know LeBron's great. We respect that. We know that he's going to probably put up some decent numbers against us. That's what he does. We're going to try to weather the storm, like you said, kind of overcome that adversity and be able to sort of punch back in the mouth. And again, just prove why we are the better team. Yes, LeBron's great. He's the best player to ever do it. Arguably, we don't have to have that debate on this show tonight. But like we're the better team right now in 2022. Let's go out and prove it. And so I thought that was good to see that kind of from start to finish. They did that. I did think too, because like Russell Westbrook, he was getting kind of chippy early on. Like he was getting real fired up. He did like the little like small thing to like Darius Garland, I think, early on. And then he was like pumping his fist when he made that and one early. So I know there was some chippiness kind of going on, and the team, they stayed together and they were like, hey, well, second half, we're going to figure this thing out. And they did. And they were able to obviously finish it off in a double-digit win, which was good to see.
Yeah, that was literally the next point that I was going to get to. Like Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, kind of in a new role for the Lakers, but doing it fairly well, kind of looking a little bit more like the Russell Westbrook of old. And he certainly looked like the Russell Westbrook of old when he had kind of the antics and the emotion flowing there on the on full display on the court there. And at that point, I almost kind of felt like, because I think it was maybe 21-9 or something like that. LA had a double-digit lead, and it almost felt like the Lakers were just kind of coming out to just kind of like bully the Cavs, right? Like, we're the Lakers, we're the aura. You're in LA, you're in our building. Like, this is how it's supposed to go down. This is, you're supposed to roll over. We're supposed to come out and fire the first shot, and then it's gonna spiral and go downhill from there. And that didn't happen, right? Like we saw them respond. I think Russ connected on his first 5 shots and then missed his next 4. So like they were still able to weather that storm. LA made a living getting to the paint in that first half. I think they outscored the Cavs 38-12, I believe, in the first half when it comes to like points in the paint. Was writing about this one as well. 38-16 when it comes to points in the paint. Obviously, you can attribute a lot of that to Jarrett Allen and to Evan Mobley getting into foul trouble. And I think Mobley played 9 minutes, Allen played 12 minutes. So a big reason for that. But they were able to flip that script in the second half, right? Like the Cavs outscored LA conversely in the second half, 32-18, and had them beat in second chance points, 11-2. So like to see them come back in the second half, reassert themselves, I thought was very good because. And they talked about it on the broadcast too, like that front or that backcourt was really carrying the load, obviously, in that first half. And it just kind of felt like they were able to keep them hanging around. It was a 6-point game at halftime. And then once you're able to get Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley and everybody else involved, that's when things really started to go the Cavs' way in that second half. Yeah,
I mean, I think that was maybe the biggest detriment to this team in the first half really was just the foul trouble. Because those guys not being out there was when you look at the first half box score to the second half box scores, you just kind of laid out the points in the paint. I mean, that speaks volumes to like, yeah, those two guys aren't out there for an extended period of time, and then they are out there for an extended period of time, and you see the script was obviously flipped. So, yeah, I mean,
poor. I mean, to go along with that too, LA a very poor shooting team, like specifically three-point range. I think
and that's
20% this year.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to add was because they started playing better in the paint and defending better because you had those two guys out there in the second half. They did what you want to do to that team, which is force them to take outside shots. You know, it was LeBron taking a lot of like turnaround jumpers, and I know he airballed one, and that got a laugh out of some Cavs fans on social media I saw. So it was kind of forcing things outside and saying like, yeah, we'll let you have those and see what you can do because we don't trust you to knock them down. And conversely, having those guys back in the middle certainly paid dividends. So that was the biggest discrepancy from first half to second half, and I think that was the difference in the game tonight, really. Did we ever find out, because I know there was a moment where Anthony Davis, like he had 3 fouls as well in the first half, and they gave him then he got fouled. He got a foul in the second half, and they said it should have been his 4th one on the broadcast, but then they somehow took it away. Like, did we ever find out what happened to that mystery foul?
I did not. They were talking about it on the broadcast, right? And I was listening to that too. Like he had 4, all of a sudden then all of a sudden he had 3. It was like, you know, very, very strange there too. And I also loved how the intricacies with the transition take foul that we're still all learning and growing with. Not only was you can't challenge that it was a transition take foul, but you can challenge that it was a foul or not, which is kind of like, so like JB challenged it. It wasn't, Kevin Love didn't even commit a foul, but yet it was somehow whistled as a transition take foul. Like, just kind of an interesting couple of like rules nuances within the NBA and how things or some things that we're experiencing so far early on in the season.
Yeah, I also thought as we kind of talk about just you bring up the transition take foul, and this kind of made me think of it. Like I thought another area that the Cavs really could attack the Lakers, and I thought they did a good job tonight, was just like the transition buckets, because that's a team that, yeah, they're going to be scrappy because of some of the guys they have, like some star players, but they don't get back on defense very quickly. And I felt like you could see the youth of the Cavs taking advantage of that throughout the game, where they get a stop or they get a rebound, and it would just be quickly down the other end, push it, and get a bucket. So I thought that was obviously something that they kind of took advantage of as well. I guess we could say just what I kind of summed up there, like the youth of the team, or the fact that they're a little more agile and have a little more pep in their step as they are, I think helped in this one. But that was another kind of intricacy of the game that I thought came into play. I also wanted to just shout out real quick two of the biggest plays of the game, I thought, or I guess maybe not the biggest, but 2 of the biggest highlights of the game. The Dean Wade steal for a dunk. We get a Dean Wade dunk like that. At that moment, I think I tweeted something about like, you know, things are going right when you get a Dean Wade breakaway dunk on a steal. And then also Kevin Love made amends for getting dunked on by LeBron back in the spring. And he blocked LeBron. And LeBron did not look too happy about the block afterwards. He kind of like threw his hands and was like, seriously? I don't think he saw that one coming. So that was Kevin Love playing defense. How about that?
Yeah, and good for Kevin too. Really like asserting himself on the defensive end of the floor. Took another charge today. I think that's 9 charges in 9 games for him. Really committed to being able to help, on the defensive side of things. And that series that ended in the dunk by Dean Wade. That's kind of exactly what I was talking about with that fourth quarter. Like you're on a run. I think they closed out the third quarter on a 10-0 run. They come out. They get a stop. They forced a hectic possession at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then another steal on the second possession of the quarter for LA that ends in the Dean Wade dunk. Like that just seemed like things are really starting to spiral out of control for Los Angeles at that point.
I just want to add like the Kevin Love character arc, or I should say the Silver Fox character arc, has been just, I mean, it's one of the better stories in the NBA, I think. Like this guy he comes to Cleveland and he's kind of the third wheel of the big 3, right? And you have the LeBron tweets about like, stop trying to fit out and just fit in and whatever. And there's all kind of that. And you wonder like if he's really long for Cleveland and if they're going to try to trade him. And there's rumors about him getting traded every single year. Then they go win a championship with him. And he is actually like, you talk about the 3 big plays of that game 7 against the Warriors, and it's like the shot, the block, and they say the stop of Kevin Love actually playing defense to defend a shot by the Warriors. So he's kind of now in Cleveland lore. Then obviously the big 3 kind of falls apart. Kevin Love's the one who stays, and I think people in Cleveland are like, well, we don't necessarily need to keep him around, but we appreciate the fact that he's like endeared himself to Cleveland. He wants to be here, so thanks for staying. But then through that rebuilding phase, the temper tantrums and more rumors about him getting traded, and people were ready to take this guy. Like, people would have lined up to be the first to take this guy to the airport and ship him out of here. And now these last 2 years, he has played such good basketball on both ends of the floor. He's contributing offensively. He's making threes at a good clip, which is what they need him to do, and that roll off the bench. And like we said, we just mentioned, like playing defense and playing tough defense and taking charges. He's doing the little things. I saw the quote after the game on Friday. We obviously didn't get a chance to do a post-game pod, but I had you on the show, and somebody put this out there, and I saw JB talked about this. He said that they knew Kevin Love was close to a triple-double, and he was going to leave him in for it. But Kevin Love told him, like, it's okay. Like, do what's best for the team. Get some of these other guys reps. Like 2 years ago, do you think we would have been saying that was what Kevin Love would be saying? Like, no chance. Like it. So I just think his character arc is extremely interesting and fun to follow. And obviously, it's paying dividends for the Cavs. There's going to be a storyline at some point with him of whether or not they should bring him back after his contract's up this year. Obviously at a lesser rate, but still. Wait, John, I think I lost your audio. I can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
Now.
Oh, there you go. I got you.
Okay.
Got you.
Gotta love the technology here. Want to end with this because my computer is dying. Maybe that's one of the reasons why things are starting to check out here. Donovan Mitchell, 33 points, I believe, tonight. Darius Garland with 24. Another impressive night for them. I feel like, and we kind of alluded this when we started, but like, have we seen the best of these guys yet? Like, this is I hate to like put on, whether or not we're ahead of schedule, behind schedule. But I mean, you have to like with what you've seen so far for these guys in just really 2 games. And like, what's the ceiling with these guys? Like, it's got to be, it's very impressive to see what they've done so far with such a short sample size.
I mean, I think we are seeing the best of Donovan Mitchell. I mean, people are saying this is like the best stretch of his career ever. So he's been impressive. He's been as advertised, if not better. The question of like, have we seen the best of them together? I think does sort of remain to be seen at this point. I mean, we're talking about 3 games together at this point that they've been able to play. So I think we're still waiting to see what they're going to look like at, full strength and sort of when they're both really rolling with each other. But I think we can say that about like most of this team too, right? Like, I brought this up with you Friday, but Evan Mobley, I think people are looking at the stat sheet and say, like, even tonight, he had 5 points. Yeah. And they're like, well, this guy's supposed to be this big star. Like, why isn't he scoring more? But they haven't needed him to, I think, is the kind of the answer to that question. But even his impact on the defensive end of the floor, I mean, he had 8 blocks the other night. He had another block tonight, but he's getting a lot of boards, steals. He's getting some assists, even worked it. Like, he's doing it in other parts of the game. And I think the fact that like this team all around is just so well-rounded and playing so well, that takes the pressure off, like every individual to kind of like have to do something. Like, they can kind of just figure out what works for them and where they're needed on any given night. And I think that's, again, a value to the Cavaliers throughout the season. But to your point, I mean, I was going to joke around the other day that I think Darius and Mitchell could be coming for the title of the best backcourt in the NBA. I mean, that's kind of been owned by Steph and Klay for a long period of time, and all due respect to them, like Steph, best 3-point shooter of all time. Klay's not too far behind him. Obviously, he's had the injuries of late, but I think he's maybe lost a step just because those injuries have kind of hindered his play at times. But I mean, I think these 2 guys are certainly going to make a case for that. and they're just playing so well together right now. I think the sky's the limit. I think you have yet to see more, which has me very hopeful for what's to come down the stretch of the season, or not down the stretch of the season, but throughout the season. But yeah, I think there's definitely more to come, and we're seeing some great stuff now. But I can only imagine like once everybody's really clicking and they really, again, John, like we're 9 games in. There's no way they have it all figured out right now, and they're already playing this good of basketball. So I can't wrap my head around how good this team could be come playoff time if they really figure everything out and kind of are like rolling even better than they are right now.
We'll end with that. 114-100. Your Cavs, the 8th straight win, 8-1 on the season, and the best backcourt in basketball, perhaps. We'll save that for a podcast for another day. For Spencer German, for John Rutter, thanks for joining us here on the Cavs Cavs Insider post-game report. 8 straight wins for the Cavs, 114-100 over the Lakers tonight. They have the Clippers tomorrow night at Crypto.com Arena. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll touch base again soon. You're watching and listening to the Cavs Insider postgame report on CavsInsider.com and on the Cavs Insider YouTube page.